So far, we've applied these aggregation functions across an entire table. You now know how to count all the records in a given table. But you might want to count records across multiple subsets of data. For example, as a sales manager, you might want to sum all of the sales of each paper type for each account. Group by allows you to create segments that will be aggregated independently of one another. In other words, group by allows you to take the sum of data limited to each account rather than across the entire data set. Let's work our way toward this answer by starting with the sums of the quantities of each type of paper. Now, we want to create a separate set of sums for each account ID. So let's add the account ID column into our select statement. As you can see, this returns an error. As we aggregate in this query, we're effectively collapsing the number of rows returned. In our previous query, we collapsed all the way down to a single row. The reason we're getting an error here is that we've included the account ID column, but this column isn't being collapsed like the columns that are being aggregated. The query isn't sure whether to sum the account ID as well, or whether to make it into a grouping. We have to be explicit about this. We want to tell the query to aggregate into segments, where each segment is one of the values in the account ID column. We'll do this using the group by clause. You can see that this isn't ordered intuitively, so let's fix that. The group by clause always goes between the where clause, if there is one, and the order by clause. Whenever there's a field in the select statement that's not being aggregated, the query expects it to be in the group by clause. A column that's not aggregated and not in the group by will return the error we saw before. This is pretty important and is the key to correctly using group by statements. Again, you should always see any columns in the select statement that are not being aggregated on in the group by statement.